Hello there and welcome back to another edition of Silly Car Showdown. Today we are taking a look at the Nissan 240SX. This car was requested by Ariet11 and this should be an interesting one. I'm not much a fan of the Nissan 240SX, it has to be said, but even I will concede that this is actually a really good driving car stock. It's nicely balanced, not the most powerful thing in the world, but certainly good for a little bit of low-powered racing fun. However, today it will not remain low-powered because this thing has an engine swap and a couple of body kits, or rather one body kit I believe. Yes, we have the Rocket body kit, which of course as usual gives us wider tyres and so on and so forth, so of course we are going to put that on the car. In terms of the engine swaps, well, there's a ton of them for the 240SX. There is the 3.2 litre inline 6, 2 litre inline 4 from a Honda, 2 litre inline 4 turbo engine from a Nissan S15, which is a unique swap to this car, a 6.2 litre V10, a 2.6 litre inline 6 twin turbo from a Skyline, the ever-present turbo rally engine, the 3.8 litre V6 twin turbo from a Nissan GTR, and finally the quad rotor from a Mazda 787B race car, which is what we're going to be using for today. Now, in accordance with the usual rules, there is no drivetrain swaps allowed on the cars, and also we are not allowed adjustable downforce. That wing is ridiculous. I think I'll just go for that wing because it's supposed to be on this kit anyway. Right, in terms of tyre sizes, I'm actually sort of excited to see what we get. Okay, never mind. 275s, not the biggest rear tyres, it has, front tyres, and 305 rears, yeah, not massively big tyres. Okay, my confidence has dwindled down slightly. You see, for this type of engine to work in a car, you really do need big rear tyres. You also probably need some weight behind the car, because this engine is incredibly responsive. Of course, it's a racing engine, which is, well, to be expected. But yeah, this is an incredibly responsive engine. As soon as you tap the throttle, it builds power like crazy, so you definitely do have to be careful with this, and, well, lightweight or a heavier car with bigger tyres makes that better. This isn't getting that though, is it? Also, it's not getting as much power as I thought this engine had. Anyways, of course, we can only do one upgrade to the actual engine itself, which is removing the restrictor plate, which leaves us with 718 horsepower, 466 foot-pound torque, 2,570 pounds of weight. Yeah, 3.9 seconds to 60, top speed of 236 miles per hour. While the PI isn't particularly impressive, nor is the power or the torque figures, those actual sort of in-game benchmark statistics are pretty good. So it'll be interesting to see sort of how this one drives. It could really go one or two ways. This could be, you know, another case of a Viper Box Mustang, where this thing is incredibly quick for its PI. Or it could not be that, and it could be, say, a VTEC Cadet or something of the sorts. I don't think it will be that bad, but there's only one way to find out if it's good or bad, and that's by taking it to our course. So here we are at our Edinburgh course, ready to give this Nissan 240SX 5 laps to set the best time it possibly can. Our current leader is the Ferrari Huracan V12, which set a time of a 153 point something or other. I don't know, because the leaderboard is getting quite sizable now. And sort of, I was trying to look at a place where this car could potentially end up earlier. So yeah, either way, it won't beat the Huracan, I can assure you, so that's not a time we have to worry about. In terms of the 240SX, if I had to make a prediction, I would say this car's going to end up somewhere in the 150 ballpark, maybe somewhere slightly above that, maybe somewhere slightly below that. I just don't really have much faith in this car. You know, your power to weight figures are not particularly great compared to quite a lot of cars that run around this course. Its overall sort of tyre whips and all the rest of it leave a lot to be desired. And granted, it could be a very nice driving car, but it certainly will not be the quickest of cars, and indeed down that straight, 140 miles an hour, not one of the quickest sort of top speeds we have seen so far. It does seem to be driving pretty nice though, which is a good sign. I wasn't quite sure how it was going to take to this engine, but it actually seems to be doing pretty darn remarkable. This engine may have possibly gotten a little bit more drivable, or maybe the slightly bigger rear tyres are helping this car out. As much as I sort of criticise the front tyres for not being quite as big as I thought they'd be, they are still pretty sizable. 275s certainly are not something to shake a stick at. They are pretty sizable. So, as much as I would have liked, you know, 305s all round, or 305 front, 335 rear, you know, that's sort of, for me, properly ideal for a car like this. They're still pretty good, actually. This could be quicker than I expected. A 152.047 is not bad, especially considering this is a rear-wheel drive car. Yeah. We might be on the higher end of that 150 estimate. We might even get this into the 149s. I just don't expect it to be much quicker than that. Again, the unfortunate truth of this run will be, it just hasn't got as much power as everything else that's ran around here. Power-wise, it's sort of comparable to quite a few cars we've had. The VTEC Cadet, of course, being one of them. It is more powerful than all the Turbo Rally cars, however, it has less torque than all the Turbo Rally cars. That being said, the Turbo Rally cars we've run have been stuff like your Hillman Imp, trying to remember them, the Hillman Imp, the Sprite. I think there's been one or two others, and those weren't massively quick. To say the least. It has beaten the Imp and I believe the Sprite as well, so it's doing better than those. Oh, the Turbo Traveller, the Morris Traveller. That would also be another interesting car for this one to go up against. There's not really a whole lot happening in sort of our 150 to 151 era. You know, a lot of the more modern cars, especially the cars we're running now, you know, unfortunately, as much as I'd love this to be a completely fair test at the end of the day, I do get slightly better around the course each time I drive it, and as a result of that, certain cars, you know, the more recent cars we're running are getting a little bit quicker than the ones we had previously run. You know, I think I've mentioned in the past before, stuff like the Hillman Imp probably could be a lot quicker if I was to drive it. Whoa, okay. This is doing things I was not expecting it to. This is definitely a Viper Box Mustang situation. Holy cow. A 147.677 on its second lap out. My god, that is very impressive indeed. It's actually, I've got to say this for it, as much as the PI and the power figures and the torque really don't show much, this thing actually does drive really very, very nicely. It is very, very, very composed through the corners, minimal fuss. You know, to be honest with you, half the time it's sort of driving like it's four-wheel drive, the amount of stability I've actually got in it. It's just a really solid car. It does have a few issues occasionally, like up there, a little bit of sliding on the uphill sections, but it's pretty darn composed, which again, you know, with this 787B engine, I'm so used to this engine throwing cars around. This engine usually is not very compatible with anything really, but this car it seems to have made quite a nice fit into, and it seems to be doing really rather well at the moment, which is good. You know, I'd rather a car do well than do bad. Of course, the quicker a car is, the more episodes I can do in one night without getting tired as well, so it's a win-win situation for all of us. A little bit sloppy through there, but not bad. It's just very easy to drive, the 240SX. That's sort of my overall review of it. As I said, you know, stock this is actually a really nice driving car. And even, you know, in this guise, this does seem to be a car which, you know, it sort of is comparable to something I would actually, you know, race and drive. It does feel very similar to that. Now that nowhere near as quick, there was a couple of silly mistakes. I don't know if I'll ever be able to get close to that 147.677, but we will give it a go. But yeah, as I said, you know, this actually feels like a sort of car I would happily build and drive and like a lot. Especially, you know, if I had that rear wing, some downforce, I definitely could drive this. Certainly. It is pretty darn remarkable how nice and composed it really is. It's not often I say that about rear-wheel drive cars on this series. Of course, I believe... No, actually, we've had a couple of rear-wheel drive Mazdas. We've had this, and we've had the 240Z. And I believe this is currently on a quicker pace than that 240. The 240 was a delightful car to drive as well. So, something about rear-wheel drive Nissans apparently is pretty darn well. I don't know if I've got any more on the list. Of course, we have also had a front-wheel drive Nissan in the form of the Sentra, which ran a ridiculous amount of power and was not particularly nice to drive. To be fair, it was more composed than maybe you'd expect, a sort of 1200 horsepower, or however many horsepowers it had, 1000, sorry. It was more composed than you'd expect a front-wheel drive car with that much power to be, but even still, it wasn't what we'll call ideal. But this is very nice. This is very easy, very composed, very glorious. Sort of, the one thing that seems to be limiting this car is how much I'm sort of considering what normal cars drive like around here. You know, I'm not used to being able to brake as late as I am in this car. Part of that is, of course, down to the fact that this car, not the quickest, it has to be said, straight line wise. I mean, you know, barely cresting 150 miles an hour through there. Most cars would be well up to 170, 180, some of the ones we've tested. But, you know, I mean, its actual acceleration is pretty good, which is, most of this track, you know, you don't need an all-out straight-line speed monster. Granted, it helps through some of the sections, certainly, but for the most part, this is a course which focuses on high-speed cornering ability and acceleration between corners. That's sort of what it was built to do. This is supposed to really rag around the cars which could be troublesome. You know, it's not supposed to be a track where as long as you have the most straight line speed in the world you will prosper. It's supposed to be you need a balance of everything, and granted it's not a particularly balanced car because straight line speed isn't that quick, but because it's a nice handling car, it's filling me full of confidence. I really like it. I really do. This one actually holds a bit of a special place as well, because my first ever upload on HG Central, which is long gone now, actually involved this car in a series which I was going to plan at the time. It was going to be called Seka Shakedown. Turns out I didn't particularly like that series very much, but the 240SX was the cover start for that series, so sort of brought everything full circle a little bit if you're watching this on HG Central. But yeah, a surprisingly solid car to drive, one that I've really enjoyed my time with, and it is going to get a pretty quick time, a 1:47.476. Yeah, I like this thing a lot. A really composed, nice to drive, solid car. Which I wasn't expecting to say. I was expecting to, you know, not hate this thing per se, but not really think much of it. I was expecting this thing to get a 150. I was not expecting this, you know, I mentioned at the start, the Viper Box Mustang is a car which had really low PI but did really very well. And this car, Loud Motorcycle, thank you, sort of had a very similar effect to that. A really likeable, nice car, easy to drive, can't complain. Really cannot complain. Other than, I wish it had some more straight line speed, but you can't have it all. Anyways, a 1:47.476 will put this 240SX into 18th place. It goes slightly behind the Lotus Carlton V10, a car which was running 500 more horsepower than this. It is 0.5 seconds up on the ludicrous limo, the Cadillac. It's quicker than the Cayman GTS, the Allright Nova. You know, over a second up, about a second and a half actually, up on the 240Z. Yeah, a solid time for the 240SX. As I said, just an overall really likeable, easy to drive, nice car, which I cannot complain about. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching. If you'd like cars that are not this nice to request, or if you'd like to surprise me with something like Riet surprised me with this, you can request cars in a couple of ways. One way is down below in the comment section. Alternatively, join my Discord link in the description, and you can request cars in the request chat, which is where I'd recommend, because I can keep track of them that way and let you know when a car has gone round, so you can request another maximum of 2 cars per person. And of course there is a list in the description of all the cars that have been requested. If you're watching this on HG Central and you've enjoyed me, my name's Emil. Hi, I make subpar content. Link in the description to that too on HG Central. No link to my Discord on HG Central, but it's not difficult to find if you come onto my channel. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.